Do you like fantastic performing portable antennas? I hope so, because today we've got a good one. Today we're going to talk about the CrankIR by SteppIR. Hey everybody, Josh, KI6NAZ. Thanks for clicking on the ham radio crash course. If you haven't already, give me a thumbs up. It helps out the YouTube algorithm a lot. Anyway, today we're going to be looking at the CrankIR made by SteppIR. SteppIR provided this antenna to the Ham Radio Crash Course, actually to the Ham Radio Adventures Radio Club that's going to be using it for an activation down in the Dry Tortugas, hopefully sometime later this year. And if it doesn't happen then, it's going to happen sometime, but this antenna is going to get a lot of use out in the field, and thanks so much for SteppIR for providing it to us. So to help put some context on this, the SteppIR CrankIR is a freestanding vertical antenna. It features a cranked reel system. All you anglers and fishermen in the house, you're going to love this. But the concept is this, and I do need to explain it up front so you understand what's happening. There are two reels at the bottom of the antenna. One is loaded with line and wire, radiating element, and the other is empty. When you get the antenna erected, you'll have the line pulled up vertically to a T-section with two pulleys. The line goes up around and down the pulleys to another pulley and then feeds back on the empty reel. It all becomes tightened once you get it kind of tightened and tuned in appropriately, and then you simply crank it. As you crank, it's going to pull the line into the empty line and off of the full line. What that leads to doing is the line will run out, you'll start feeding radiating element, and that radiating element is graduated by amateur radio operating bands using heat shrink tubing. So you just crank this wire until you get to the band you want to operate on, and that's it. And because it's a vertical, you likely know that you need a counterpoise or a radial system. And they have a crank system for that as well, and it uses a series of pulleys and an elevated radial system that you simply crank until you find the band that you want based off of that color-coded shrink tube, and then you stop. You can check it on an SWR meter and antenna analyzer. You should do this anyway, but in my testing, it has an extremely flat SWR curve for whatever band that you're operating, and it's extremely wide-banded. There are many pieces that are involved in this kit, but it all packs into two nylon bags. One nylon bag has the tripod, and the other nylon bag has all the other antenna parts. Part of it is an extendable carbon fiber fishing rod type of flagpole. The telescoping mast is fantastic. It is it's glossy up on the top, but not glossy here at the bottom. This is a screw fit for the bottom side of the mast, and it has this nicely fit plastic lug. And these pieces are really beefy and stout. I would want to use this for any kind of antenna, let alone the CrankIR. This is really nice. And then below that, if you're going to operate on 40 or 80 meters, you add in 3 carbon rod extensions, which adds to a higher elevation, which means you can pull more of that radiating element out along the T and back down to work 80 meters particularly. Some of you might be thinking to yourself, my gosh, that seems like a tangle nightmare. And you'd be correct if you weren't paying attention, but you should be paying attention and following the detailed instructions that come with this antenna. And I made an assembly video on setting this up. It deserved its own assembly video, so I've included that. It's live right now. You can take the link in the description or the cards, and it will take you to the assembly of this antenna and my operating it QRP style and reaching across the country with very little issue. So to those that are worrying, don't worry, it's not that hard to assemble for your first time. It took me about 45 minutes, maybe about an hour to set it up my first time. Then after that, every subsequent time has been about 30 minutes or so. Now, the key thing to remember in setting it up is just pay attention to where the line is. It's got a drag, just tighten down the drag if you're not messing with the wire. But once you have it connected and it's taut and good to go, you just crank it. It's set for the entire day. You're not going to have any problems. So if you're following along, you have a radiating element and a radial system that is tuned exactly, precisely for the band of operation, making it very efficient to use. I have been able to, with 20 watts, reach out to Virginia single sideband without any problem. Being that this is a legal limit antenna, I also ran this on an amp during the CQ Worldwide contest a couple weeks ago, and I was breaking pileups with it. Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
Yeah, the November Alpha Zulu. What's your prefix?
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu. You're 5'9", my number 2.
Okay, KI6NAZ, I got you. You're 5'9", 2029, okay?
QSL, thank you for the contact.
Thanks. This is Zulu Papa.
The CrankIR is a full legal limit antenna that can work 2 meters through 80 meters through its inventive dual reel design. It is primarily a portable antenna. It is not weather resistant. It's not something that you would leave up outside in a permanent destination. This is something that would be great for parks on the air, for a de-expedition, something where you may only have 1 or 2 people going along with you. It's fantastic in the capacity of a fully performing portable antenna. Couple of points of note in my experimentation using the raised elevated radial system. They use pulleys, and you can use stakes, you know, a couple of foot-long stakes that you can drive into the ground, and the pulleys are on elastic line. That makes it really, really easy if you ever wanted to reposition your radials. I'm in the West Coast, so generally with an antenna like this, I want my radials pointed out kind of a northeast direction. And that seemed to do really, really well for me. I used 2 stakes so that each stake could be separated by a couple of feet, so you get kind of a U pattern or a Y coming out of the base of the antenna. The antenna can be rotated on its tripod very, very easily, and that's basically what I would do whenever I wanted to adjust where the radials are at. I just go and rotate the antenna, turn the body, and then pick up the stakes and move them where I wanted them placed. It made it very, very simple as far as that's concerned. For me, putting up an antenna is a lot about what capabilities you get based off of how much work you have to put into it. There's lots of multi-band antennas that are many multiple cuts of wire that require many multiple radials to be efficient. Or they use a coil system with a vertical that you tap into to adjust the physical length of the antenna on the radiating element. But then you have to mess with the radial to get it into the proper tune where it wants to be. You don't have to worry about any of that with the CrankIR. Just match the 2 colors on the radiating element and then the radial, and you're good to go. In true ham radio crash course fashion, I'm going to talk about what I like, what I didn't like, and then would I buy it. So here we go. What I like. Basically all band. 2 meters through 80 meters. That's pretty nice. If you were going to run even just a 2-meter station for a while or run a radio that had that capability out of the box, you're pretty good to go with this. So all band. All band matched with radials specifically for the radiating element that you have selected. So just tune up the top, tune up the bottom to the appropriate length, and you're good to go. It runs full legal limit power, which is extremely nice, particularly for those of you that may want to do, you know, a couple man DX portable or de-expedition station. That's going to work out really well because, again, it packs up into 2 simple bags and is easy to get around. Now, some of you may feel differently about this, but I liked the setup. I thought the setup was relatively straightforward. I read through the instruction manual once after taking a look at all the individual pieces, because it kind of all comes as separate pieces in the one bag. And I found it very straightforward. I don't know if that's because I'm a fisherman, but I'm like, oh yeah, I got some wire guides. I'm going to run it through the wire guides, and then I'm going to tighten it up so that it's, you know, relatively tight, but not too tight. And then the reel will just take up the line as you feed the line. It was very straightforward from that sense. I also enjoyed the fact that I could move the radials around very easily, and again, if they're on stakes or freestanding tripods, it made the whole thing very, very simple to use. The material, the grade, the quality, when you look at it, when you feel it, it all is very, very sturdy. The tripod is big, not too big that it's unwieldy, but big enough to handle the length of the antenna. I never felt that it was not secure in any way. I was using a 50-pound waterproof sack that I put on the bottom of the tripod. I never had any issues with it messing with the legs or whatnot. SteppIR does recommend you do guy the antenna out or use a heavy weight on each of the legs, and that's the route I went. I'm just using a dry bag that has playground sand in it, and that works perfectly for a lot of different antennas I've used in the past. This is no different, not affected by the weight at all, resting on the bottom of that tripod. One of my favorite things in the entire kit is that telescoping flagpole. That thing is awesome. It is sturdy. The walls are incredibly thick. It looks like it's absolutely built to last. I would, not to say that I wouldn't do this, but I could see myself packing that up and using it as like a QRP antenna, as a vertical mast for another antenna system, because it packs down incredibly small. Unlike some of my other fishing rods that are long and thin, this one's fat at the base and shorter, which meant it had more sections, but they're all extremely sturdy. The line that is used to feed the antenna is a durable, weather-resistant line, and the radiating element is a braided line that it looks very sturdy. Obviously, I don't leave it set up for very long. I set up, I play with it, run for a couple hours, pack it up. So I've got about an hour in setup and takedown at any one time. I found that the takedown was relatively faster than the setup. That was just me, because you just crank the line back down into the reel and you're pretty much good to go. So that was extremely awesome that the quality is there, the ease of setup is there, and it all packs down into some nice bags that you can cart around pretty easily. As this makes its way around the world, doing whatever the Ham Radio Adventures takes it on, I'm hoping I end up getting it back for a while, because I'd really like to take it up to my dad's house in Big Bear. I have a feeling that it would do really, really well up there. It's not Summits on the Air portable, at least not a backpacking antenna, but if you had something like Pikes Peak, which is a drive-up activation, if you put 100 watts on this thing on Pikes Peak, you would kill. So, hey, if you get one of these things, think about going up to Colorado Springs, Colorado. Now, I always do these videos, you know, my standard review, and I like to keep to my standard review of what I like, what I didn't like, and would I buy it. I don't have a lot I don't like. And that's a good thing. I find that I like to review products that I'm really behind, that I really like them. I don't like reviewing things where I have to I never want to put myself, I guess I should say, in a situation where I have to think of something good and I've got a lot of bad things, but I don't want it to be unbalanced and too many bad things. I don't have any of that problems with this antenna. There's nothing I really don't like about it. The only thing that I guess you could complain about is that you needed the hard shackled pieces to get good results on 40 and 80. But I believe that is solely because they wanted to keep the diameter of the telescoping rod to a certain size. If you went any taller than that to be the full 80-meter length, it would be very big around based off of the wall size of those segments and the ability to pack it down. I'm guessing that's what was behind it. It just means more parts, right? More parts that you have to take along with you. But then if you start thinking about it, well, you can just leave the firm fixed sections out. Just bring the telescoping rod, you got a lighter kit, and you just only go up to 20 meters. So you got 2 meters through 20. That makes it lighter weight, easier to take around. That's an even better situation in a lot of cases when you're only really going to be operating during the day, when 20 meters is going to be good for you anyway. So the only real downside, and this isn't a downside so much as it's just the reality of the materials, the cost, the engineering that go into this kind of stuff, is the price. It is a pricier antenna. It's going to be about $1,000 when all things are said and done.
Small correction, just before going live, the CrankIR went on sale.
For that, you get the bags, you get all the pieces of the kit, which you've seen so far in this video. So I think the price is justified. It's just out of a lot of hams' price range. I get that. The fact that it's portable and not weather resistant is probably going to be another downside for some of you, because you're probably looking for a multi-band antenna that you can set up and leave alone. I get it, but that's not necessarily what they're targeting with this antenna, and I get what they're going after, and what they're going after makes sense. Again, this is a good field day antenna. And with this whole human malware virus thing going off, if you're looking for a good antenna to run on field day and maybe you've got some money saved up and you've got a 100-watt radio that you're going to be deploying in your backyard, maybe running emergency power, this would be a killer antenna to use, because I put this in my backyard, an extremely small footprint, and that's where I made that contact to Virginia, my buddy Connor, without any problem. W4IPC before I forget.
Okay, you are 5 by 5. 5 by 5. 5,
QSL, I got you at a 575757.
We're getting the 73.
All right, 73, buddy. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for the contact. See ya. Without any issue. And so I would be down with this being like a portable field day, like I already mentioned POTA, but a field day, small man operation, or just single operator would be really good. So just want to make a reminder, I did do a video that walks through the entire setup process, my setup process in my very small backyard. Not a problem. Put it up. You can check it out right now. It's already uploaded, so you can see exactly what goes into the installation and what I feel is a very straightforward installation. And again, big thank you to SteppIR for providing this CrankIR to me to take a review of and then to send to Florida for the Ham Radio Adventures crew that's eventually going to get to the Dry Tortugas. It will happen. Anyway, I am Josh, KI6NAZ. If you liked this review, please post in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you have not already. If you haven't, subscribe, because I do live streaming every Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we talk about many different things in amateur radio. Thanks again for watching. I'll talk to you later. See ya.